it absolutely amazes me that business will go pop at some point. And those investors have made a sizable investment, over £50 million, in a business that will go pop.
In 2023, investment into women-run businesses was at 2.25%. In 2024, investment into women-run businesses was at 2%. In 2026, this dropped to 1.3%. You have a greater chance of recovering from being attacked by a shark than you have at getting venture capital or private equity funding as a female founder. Now, this is not because women build worse businesses. It's because the system was never built for them. This is the Bootstrappers Breakfast. My name is Geeta Sidhu-Robb. And every episode, I'm going to sit down with a woman who built something real without waiting for the permission or the funding to do it. No hustle myths, no overnight stories, just the real trade the female founders have to make, the real decisions they've made, and what it actually took to get them to where they are today. This is the show for the female founder who has stopped waiting and started building. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Geeta Sidhu-Robb, and this is Bootstrappers Breakfast, where we bring you amazing, inspiring, phenomenal women that have chosen to bootstrap their businesses because they built a life that they wanted, which included running a business. And I think our job and our goal is to just give you the idea that you can do this as well. As a woman and a guy, please feel free, but that as women, the choices that we make are so important that we shouldn't be downplaying the effect of actual lives that we've built around what we've done. And so today's guest is the amazing Johanna Beresford, who runs a company called Fabric Shift and has bootstrapped to just over 3 million. Hi, Johanna. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Geeta. So lovely to be here. I'm Johanna Beresford, founded Fabric Shift coming up to 6 years ago, and have built that business over the years. And as we've already spoken to a number of times, Geeta, I think women build businesses in a different way, and the data is stark around what and who is getting invested in at the moment.
Yeah, and I think, for us, we have two things that we like to bring out in these podcasts. One is the bootstrappers bargain, which is that I think we underestimate what a huge, amazing thing it is that we build businesses with our lives. I don't think businesses were meant to be built separately from our lives. Entrepreneurship to me means freedom. And I think you've done that very well because you also have your children, you have a life you're running, you're married. So there's a lot going on in your life, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I have 6 children, so we have a full household, 3 stepchildren, 3.
Brady bunch.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch in a different way, and yeah, married. My husband, I always say, is a serial entrepreneur, and so there is, and I always get told off whenever I say I've built a lifestyle business because I think women talk about businesses being a lifestyle businesses, whereas men never or tend not to. And yeah, I think what does building your own business give? It's really hard, it's really challenging, and it's not linear. And I think you work in a very different way to when you're in an organization, but it also gives you choice. And I think that for me, there's not anything that could replace that choice. So whilst I work a lot, travel a lot, I equally have the choice and the ability to be around my children a lot as well, Geeta, and that has been incredibly important to me. And I think, again, like I often notice, I was actually on a conversation with a CEO of a large organization recently, a man, and he was telling me that he'd just missed his kids' play in the morning, and because he had this urgent call, and it was at the time there all the things were happening with the Middle East, and but it's still your choice, those things that we do and the things that we show up for. And so entrepreneurship requires a lot of anyone. You are there doing it all the time, but equally it gives you that ability to make some of those choices.
Yeah, which is a really good point, because one of the things I think we should flag is that you might think you're working really hard, which we are, because we never ever stop, because there isn't like this concept of get paid on holiday sort of thing isn't really a concept, But working in a corporate would be impossible to be doing that and then spending as much time with the kids. Like for me, I remember a friend of mine, a really good friend, her baby was in childcare from 3 months old. And she was the breadwinner of the family. And she had somebody who then picked up the baby, brought the baby back home, and then let the baby sleep. And the baby got woken up at 7 o'clock so she could spend time with her after work. And my heart broke just listening to that as an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. I had my two oldest, whilst I was still in work, and only took 3 months, 4 months paternity leave. They travelled with me a lot. But I then had my youngest, she was 8 weeks premature when I was starting my business. And so how I was able to work and be with her was very different, and one that I, to your friend's point, carved out in a really different way. And I don't think there's a right or wrong as well.
No, but there's a preference.
There
There's a
is,
preference.
yeah. And
Why did you prefer?
I think, it was very different, and in some ways the structure was good. Like, you knew that you were back, and I talk a
Yeah.
lot around how maternity leave is designed really badly in the UK, because it doesn't give, women more freedom and flexibility to split, the way that their leaves. And again, it comes back to this thing of what works for you at a particular moment is really important to get the most out of being productive. And when I had my youngest Tilly, I was working very long hours, but then I could still feed all of the time in the way that I wanted to. And also I could have chunks where actually I was really productive and chunks where I knew I wasn't going to be. And so I could switch my hours around very easily. It helps because I've got teams based in different parts of the world as well, Geeta. But I think it just is enabling you to have more flexibility. And I think if more corporates did that as well, we would retain more women into senior roles.
Yes, exactly. I do think that I agree with you. I know that with my life, I was a lawyer and my son was very ill, my first child, and I ended up having to work. I had to be at home, and I was like, I have to find a way to work and make money, because it's not like you stop having to make money. You
Yeah.
actually need more money when you have children, not less. So the way that works is insane, because you're forced to kind of choose, and you're like, no, no, this isn't
Yeah.
a choice. What did you find the hardest in that? Because you made a choice. You made a choice. I'm work from home. What did you find the hardest?
It's a good question. I think in hardest in what, Geeta? Like that.
In whatever you like. I mean, like, you made a choice to work from home to become a bootstrapped business,
Yeah.
which meant that you grew over a longer time. Well, let's look at the architecture of the way women set up businesses, right? The way we have 4 steps in an architecture of how women build businesses. Firstly,
Okay.
they choose
I'm going to
businesses
write this down.
less risk,
Okay.
right? Build businesses where they choose less risk. Number 2, they build businesses that are more needs based, not opportunity based.
Yeah.
Number 3, they tend to build legacy based businesses. And
Yeah.
number 4, women tend to build profitable businesses rather than fast hype businesses, because they don't get funding, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
according to what our palette is, because we have no choice. And so what we do is we make the choices from the hands that we're given,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've seen it again and again and again and again with because my job is basically talking to women entrepreneurs, coaching women entrepreneurs, hanging out with women entrepreneurs. And I see this across the board. Does that feel accurate for you?
Yeah. No. Thank you for expanding a bit on that. And I think the word hard is it's quite an emotive word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because hard, I don't think there's anything wrong with it being difficult. It's
No.
when it's that there are obstacles that mean that it is more difficult, perhaps, or that there is not an equal playing field for when you're building. Or is it, and I often think about this, Geeta, a lot, like, is it that it is that there are so many obstacles, and I'm not denying that there aren't, or equally, is it that often at points that a woman is making a decision to become an entrepreneur, they have so many other things that they're also going, whether that's motherhood, whether that's caregiving, whether that's etc., etc. And it's not to say many men are equally going through those things. So there's so many like complexities to that, like hard. It's going to be hard. It is really, really,
Yeah.
really hard.
Maybe hard is the wrong word then. I think I find it different when I choose my difficulties.
Yeah. yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that we did, as you said, and as you were talking about those 4 Rs, is we definitely are risk averse. Like if I watch how I turn up or show up, and again, I always err on the side of caution of generalizing every woman into the same bucket or generalizing every man into the same bucket. But as a notion, would I echo that there is a different around risk taking?
Yeah.
Definitely, and I think I'm take less risks since being a mother, and so I think that there's like this compounded piece as well
I
than
think it's baked in as well, isn't it?
yeah, it is to an extent. It's
Yeah.
baked in than perhaps if I watch men that I know that have built, exited businesses, and I think that there's this huge timing thing of making sure that it's perfection, like whether the product is perfect or whether the marketing is perfect or whether and I think that for me is probably the thing that when I was in an employed base, there was more ability to enable you to do the perfection piece versus, because of your point, Geeta, like you have to be able to bring in money into your business because you've not got this external piece as a buffer. And so because of that, you have to sometimes not like become really uncomfortable with it not always being perfect. And it has amazed me being an entrepreneur, what I've watched over the last 4 or 5 years, particularly in the technology space, is how many businesses are funded that aren't solving a problem. We talk
I know, right?
that aren't solving
Opportunity
a
based.
problem, that don't have a product, that are based on some Figma designs, that have some
Yes.
buzzwords, and they are mostly not women pitching those. And if I think about my own story, like I have 20 years of working in HR, I understand the HR technology space, but I understand psychology, I understand HR. And there are very, 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 very few founders of HR tech businesses. And there are even less female founders that have actually done a senior role in HR. And so it's this understanding of what the product that you're building is, that it's solving, and understanding the marketplace and the tech, like all of those things. And so
Really
this kind of over credibility point is
Yes.
that I think is so unique in women. It's like I've got all of these different things before I even think that, oh, could I really do it? And it's been so fascinating. Like, I can't build the technology. I'm not a coder. That's not but I have come up with the idea. I understand how it's going to be used. I understand what isn't working and what hasn't worked for 25 years in
What
the
needs to happen?
in the current infrastructure. And so also having to bring in, people within the business that really understand that technology build, which is so different from managing a function where you know what that they're doing, and I've done a lot in leadership development. It's very different, when someone steps into a CEO role, when you step into a CEO role in any business in a corporate world, you're managing functions, you have no idea what they do, really, let's be very frank. And it's the same with entrepreneurship, but you're thrown in it in the deep end very quickly. You understand often the industry you're selling into, but you don't understand all the functions. And that for me has been the hardest thing. The hardest thing. It's like, there's parts of the business where my energy goes naturally to, like the marketing, the comms, all of the content, all of the psychology, because I can do that. I understand that really, really well. I've got depth of knowledge versus the operational parts of the business and the technology build. And that's been the steepest learning curve and the most rewarding. And I'm not perfect, like at all. And that I think is the most rewarding, but the most difficult piece of it. But if I think, and as I'm talking to you and articulating it, it's like this credibility thing of having to verify, like, am I credible enough to be saying I can build a technology platform?
But can I sound so much like you're saying, when women apply for jobs and they tell you that women will apply for a job, if there are 10 requirements and women they
Yeah,
need to do 12 before they'll
yeah,
apply for that job. And whereas men need to do 5 and they think they can do the job. So you're saying the same thing. You're saying that women have this quest to constantly over experience themselves before they'll even think of doing something. Whereas
yeah.
men will take an opportunity and build a business forward into that opportunity. which is
Yeah,
why I think what you've just said, Johanna, is that when we built needs-based businesses is because we understand the needs so incredibly well. You've literally just proven that you built a needs-based business. You didn't have all the reasons and understanding of how it would be built, but you knew there was a market because it was a need that wasn't being fulfilled. So you
yeah,
fill that criteria completely. And then what you've also done there is because you've got children and because, when you're trying, you know you're not going to get money from anywhere. So it has to be a slower build, which makes it legacy. Because it's already being built, it's got to be profitable. Otherwise, you can't fund the next step, right?
yeah. I was just that point on and so therefore it can sometimes appear that it's, as you said earlier, it's like not that big bang and it's not, and it's slow. But I think that for me that's a sign of a more credible business, a business that is built on a product that solves a problem, that there is a need that.
Because how businesses are meant to be started in theory.
Yeah, and I am amazed every day when you read, and I'm not going to say the name, but there is a very big valuation on a firm that is in our space. They don't have a tech, but they're in the learning space, and they have never made any money. They don't make any profit. They lose
And it's
and
okay
nearly
because
hundreds of
somehow
millions of
it's
pounds now, and they've just had an over £1 billion valuation. And I honestly just sat there on Friday, and it was after our call, and I said to my husband, it absolutely amazes me that business will go pop at some point. And those investors have made a sizable investment, over £50 million, in a business that will go pop. Like absolutely, absolutely. And you see this time and time again, and it's like, this is what I don't understand, why PE and VC firms aren't backing women-led businesses that are often the ones that are solving a problem, that are already profitable, that already have some customer base. And it's not to say, even that all of the investment and capital should go into women-led businesses, but why, when there are so many failures in those investments? And I met someone last week at an event where we're in this competition, and they said you should only go after like multiples of 10 million, because then you're showing that you've got enough confidence to go and ask for that amount of money, and so you can see. And it's like, but if you don't need that amount, there's so many different like points that seem like we're not investing capital in things that are going to be successful, and what.
Well, no, but it's the metrics, isn't it? Basically, one of the businesses I set up over the last year was a certification on investing in women-run businesses, like women-run businesses, as opposed to a male-run business that's gone off track because now a woman's running it, right? But have you ever gone for funding, like your bootstrapping journey? Did you ever apply for funding in it, or did you just build it the way you were building it?
Yeah, no, I built it, and I'm very, very lucky that my husband has supported me with the business especially
Financially.
yeah, and he is part of, he sits in my business. He's built technology businesses. I sit in some his businesses, so that has been hugely beneficial. His knowledge as well. Um, but yeah, we've built it, and I've built it entirely from clients. And each year we win a little bit more, and we win a bit more, and we win a bit more, which gives us two things. It gives us money to make us profitable, to pay
Yeah.
our staff. Of course, it gives us money to invest in building the technology. So we've built our technology without going and raising capital. But the most important thing is it's helped us make sure that the methodology actually works to solve the problem that I was focusing on at the start. Like, and that again is like, all of those other things are really important. But that for me is like, if we are now going to go on this kind of significant growth journey, I can credibly sit in front of a big, large customer, in the financial services sector at the moment. We're doing a lot of work, and sit very credibly saying, this methodology works, and your investment will return significantly, because the old system is broken in the learning technology. And we know this, and we can show you the data around this, and we've got the evidence, etc., etc. And I think, again, that in being really clear that this is the problem that we know exists, solving for that, and then having really clear data points to evidence that in a way that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Because I think when businesses grow so quickly so early and they've just raised lots of capital, it's hard to know, is it because they've just spent a huge amount on marketing and they've just gone out and then they're not getting the traction, and then they don't keep their customers, as an example, because the thing they've sold isn't solving the problem that the customer thought it was. And I think that, like, that for me is like, of all the things, Geeta, all the other bits of it are very important, but that piece is so fundamental.
But it's the difference, isn't it, between being a needs-based and an opportunity-based business. What you're doing there is literally saying there is a need, the system isn't providing the need. But I think, do you think the fact that you're female helps with that as well? Because you're not of the system. So you can look at it and go, it should be doing this. So I have the experience to know it should be doing it, and I know it's not doing it. Therefore, I should be able to build something that is doing it. Whereas if you were more entrenched in the system, you wouldn't think, let me break it up. I always feel that as women, we're sort of one step away because we're
Yeah,
never quite part of the system.
yeah, it's a good question. I think that there are many things that, and everyone's different, aren't they? And I think my inquisitiveness and also being incredibly ambitious from being quite young, and even being in a senior HR role, my company sponsored me to then go and do my executive MBA, and that again gave me this credibility that at that point, what I was wanting to do. But I think having experience of being in a business and seeing where the system is broken,
Yeah.
having had that, regardless of when you're men or women, I think this one of the strengths that has enabled me to see that the problem exists is because I listen. And I think that often you see more in women. And so I think that's why, my answer to your question is yes, I think we see the system in a different way, but I think we see the system in a different way because we ask more questions and we want to hear the
So
answers.
the natural skills of being
Yeah.
female
We
come
we
up.
we want to really, really genuinely ask a question and hear what someone else is saying. And I can't tell you, I've worked in HR for a long time. I've sat on more panels for senior exec roles where people ask a question and then either not interested or they don't even listen to what the
For
person
form's
says. They
sake.
don't build.
Yeah.
And it's the most, I think, understated leadership skill there is, taking that time to really listen, and why. And it comes back again, comes back to this needs-based business. If I'm constantly listening to, like, every business and every, male businesses are the same, is like, build a needs-based business, but listen to what your customers are saying. So you're making sure you're continuing to build that product. And
That
so
you pivoting on
so
it.
you're making those mistakes early, that you're pivoting, and build that listening into everything that you're doing, and knowing where the market trends are going, and what's happening, to be very credible, because we don't have. I often think, why do women do that more? And I think there's some biology in there, and there is some biology around that. I know, especially as a lot of women enter motherhood, and we have to be able to listen in multiple different ways to signs that often aren't words, to signs that are body language, and
Well,
so
we've known that from when we start periods.
yeah.
Uncertainty is literally built into our biology.
Correct. So we know that we do that naturally,
Yeah.
more so. But also because then when you listen, you get more data, when you get more information, and that's so valuable. And people are often funny. They're like, "You're in listening mode, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, I'm absorbing, and I'm listening, and I can be, and I'm also think that often the most intelligent, insightful people in the room are the ones that say the least words. And I genuinely see this a lot. I work with a lot of exec boards, and it's often the other quietest that have the most profound things to say, Geeta. And I think and it's a skill often that doesn't associate itself with being overtly confident. And is that a metric to building a successful business, being overtly confident? And I struggle with that one a bit. because
I
yeah,
think the metric to getting fundraising in an aggressive bullfighting arena, which your fundraising is.
yeah,
And I think that because women naturally don't show up in that very abrasive manner, it's perceived as a lack of confidence. Whereas it's one of the things I was thinking when you were saying is that the person that's the quietest in the room is almost always the most powerful as well. They're
yeah,
almost always not the one wearing the biggest Rolex either. Like the richest person is not the one wearing the biggest Rolex in the room, right?
absolutely.
Because the more money you have, the quieter one tends to wear it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I think that this is the same sort of thing. So for the last few minutes, listening to the fact that you've built a £3 million bootstrapped business alongside, because not one, not two, but six children, because you're just a bit of an overachiever. What what would you tell women that are lower down the totem pole following in your footsteps? What are the things that you want to say to them that you wish somebody had said to you earlier?
Genuinely, if you think you're solving a problem and you have a great idea, to believe in yourself and not to let other louder voices influence that too much. In my early years, I did that like far too much. I brought people into the business. And I'm very fortunate. Most of the people in my business has been with me for the whole journey. But but not everyone. And so being really clear about the things that are non-negotiable around you understanding that you can successfully build something based on that problem. And the second is surround yourself with people that have an entirely different skill set than you. Why is that so important? When you're in that early stage of entrepreneurship, you can't do everything. And so why have people that can do the same thing as you? Which is very different from if you've worked you've had a big, many people that have come into entrepreneurship have often had I had a team of 400, 500 people, big HR function globally. And then I do more admin now than I ever did ever in any of my career. It's not sexy entrepreneurship at all. And one day you'll be having the most incredible experience, and then you'll be doing your VAT. Like you're doing everything in between. But be really, really clear that you have to bring people in that are just so different and such a different skill set. Otherwise, I see it as a bit of a wasted hire, especially in that early phase. And I think that my third piece, Geeta, is just be open to failing. And like everyone says it is so hard. And like even last week we spoke the day after, like I had more tears in building this business than in and the highs are so high, but the lows are so low. And it doesn't stop, and there are things that either make you frustrated or feel like they can really, really throw you, but it's how you then how you build on that. And it's the slight unknown. It's the slight unknown all the time. Um
Yeah, it's
and that,
no, it's the unknown unknowns constantly, isn't it?
yeah.
But I also think that growing a business is the biggest personal development course you could humanly go on.
Yeah. Yeah. And one last one, actually, very focused, is make some time. And this is what I was trying to make some time to still, when you are starting to kind of scale and become even more busy, like, and I hate the word busy because that's a choice thing as well, but having more to do or even more responsibilities is thinking time, because that is the value that you bring to your business. If you're a founder that's come up with an idea, you're creative. Like there isn't a
You're
non-creative
the visionary.
that exists. And what happens then is when you start kind of operationalizing as you're scaling, you don't have any time to do thinking. And that is, I think, can be really detrimental to the business.
Yeah, because you don't, if you're not doing, you feel like you're not achieving. And it's really hard because I obviously I spend a lot of time coaching. And part of it is giving people time to have a thought process
Yeah.
that's taking them. Because you've got to, I always feel that you have to remind good CEOs to become great CEOs. You sort of have to remind them that they're the visionary. And in order to create that vision and sustain that vision, you need the space to allow yourself to be the visionary.
Yeah.
Visionary doesn't happen in the middle of 12 things. It happens when you step back and let the back of your brain work it out and then step forward again feeling new and refreshed. And that is not always a holiday, because when you're an entrepreneur, going on holiday is just another place to work from.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Quite.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much. So, given the opportunity, would you do it all again?
Yes. No. Yeah. Yes. No. Gone. I would. I would. And I think, I would like to build this to be really successful, have an impact. And then equally, like, see what that enables me to do. But in short, yes.
The wonderful and amazing Johanna Beresford, who has built this amazing business and has done it alongside 6 children. So if you ever wake up and think, oh my God, I can't do this, I want you to think of her and think, well, actually, maybe, just maybe I could do it. Because for all of us as women, there are so many variables that are part of our life every single day and the things that we're responsible for. And it doesn't change. What it is that we just manage all those things, and yet we also manage to build businesses. So if you're a woman building a business, I hope that this was inspiring and it makes you want to get up and do it one more time, because just one more day. And sometimes that day is the day where it all just goes beautifully and you feel like you were born to do it. Thank you so much for joining Bootstrappers Breakfast. That's the episode. If you got something from it, the best thing you can do now is send it to a one woman who needs to hear it. That's how this show grows. Female founder to female founder. If you're building something yourself and you want to know where you actually stand, we've created a free diagnostic for you, and it's in the show notes. 7 minutes, and it will tell you exactly what is holding your business growth back and what to do about it, based on my 17 years experience of helping women build enormous businesses. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. New episodes are every 2 weeks. I'm Geeta Sidhu-Robb. This is the Bootstrappers Breakfast, a 7-run series. See you next time.